Hi guys, it is Sky doing another video because I haven't done one in forever, and this video has been a long time coming in that people have asked for it and I've been like, yeah, I'll make it sometime, and now I'm finally making it. So today's topic is school and low vision. So how do those two mix? How do they work? The do's and don'ts, and my kind of experiences with it. So first things first, when you're in school and you have low vision, it's interesting to say the least. A lot of things are interesting with low vision, aren't they? That's what I always say. First off, you're gonna have a lot of accommodations if you have low vision in school. You know, you have your IEP, Individualized Personal Plan, or something like that. I forgot exactly what it stands for. But technically that is when you and your teachers and special education teachers all sit down and you come up with accommodations that work for you and help your low vision not to be so much of a problem. An IEP goes over what your vision is, your goals for the future, your weaknesses, and any equipment that might help you. IEPs are pretty much the first step, and they're how you discuss your vision with your teachers and everything, your school, how you get that all worked out. Now, you also will probably have a low vision teacher, special education teacher, who is who you work with to actually get the equipment. Usually equipment when you're in grade school, high school, middle school, all that stuff, the equipment is funded and given to you on rent or loan by a low vision center or by the school district. Now, there's a lot of equipment to go over, or things you can try. The most popular ones that we're really used to are things like really large print textbooks, which I hate, and I'll tell you why in a second. You can get screen readers or cameras, kind of devices that you mount on your desk, and you have a screen that sees what the camera sees. You can zoom in with the camera to see the board, they take pictures, they can switch the contrast, etc, etc. So hopefully you'll be able to see the board a little better with that. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. You'll probably get Monoculars, which are like little, I think I've shown them in a video before, but they're like little kind of like telescopes, but not. Devices you can use to zoom in on the board. Of course, they're not digital. You can also use them to read signs and stuff like that. Usually an orientation and mobility specialist will give you those, but the school district might also, so it depends. Magnifiers are another big one. Of course, everyone knows my favorite magnifier right here. I love the thing, but there's a lot of different magnifiers you can try out, and they can give you some that are digital, some that are just like bubbles, all sorts of different stuff. Now let me explain some of those devices I just told you about. First of all, I'm going to get into large textbooks, large print textbooks. Now with our vision, I always find that 12 print font is very manageable if we're really, really close. A lot of people don't understand that with our vision, pretty much unless it's like 30 size font, we're gonna have to be about an inch away from our paper to read it, despite, you know, it being big or small or anything. We're gonna have to be an inch away. So unless it's smaller than 12 points, then we should be able to read it just fine. A lot of teachers think that if the font is bigger, we'll be able to see it better. Not really the case. We're still gonna have to get just as close, and the problem more with us is that it hurts our necks and our backs to lean in as close as we have to read things than it does to actually read them with our eyes, because either way, how big or small it is, we're gonna get eye strain either way. Because when we're squinting to focus our vision to read text and make the text not blurry, we have to do that with large font or small font, and either way, we're gonna have to get close, as I said. So as nice as the intention is to give us really, really big print, and as much as I appreciate it, the only time that big print is really needed is if you're giving us some teeny, tiny microscopic text font size that we can't read. The big textbooks, they have so many problems. I mean, first of all, you usually need 2 desks to read them. Because they're so huge, they won't fit on one desk with all your papers and supplies and stuff like that. There's a few problems with that. First of all, looking different when you're legally blind in school is hard enough. It's really obvious because, of course, being legally blind is not an invisible disability. And from the time you're really, really young, you look different in school. and that's really hard to accept, especially in the lower grades and stuff like that, or even in middle school and junior high where you're supposed to be, you know, fit in with the crowd and stuff. You're not going to, and having 2 desks for 1 textbook, it's just ridiculous, and you're so self-conscious. But of course that shouldn't really matter if it helps you, but it doesn't help you. Big textbooks do not help us. Mostly they hurt us because we have to get so close to our font. We're gonna have to be sitting on our chair on our feet, leaning across our desk to get to the top of the textbook to read what the font says, because the textbook is so huge and you can't really pick it up, can you? Like, it's so big that you have to lean across your desk, like on the balls of your feet on your chair to read it, and that kills your back, and it's really embarrassing, and it's harder for us to read because it's harder for us to get that close to the tops of the textbook. So long story short, big textbooks don't work for us. They're evil. We hate them. At least I hated them. I don't know about everyone, but I think most acromats would agree with me that we dislike them. Small textbooks, I mean, we can have a magnifier to read them if they're too small, and the nice thing about them is we can hold them right up to our face, really, really, really close, so there's not going to be that kind of issue of trying to strain your neck to read them. I really like when I can hold things up to my face, because in school you bend down so much to read papers and to write and stuff like that, that you really get some back issues and neck issues. I'm 20 and my back's already really messed up from leaning over so many things, and that's not good. I'm afraid for when I get older, but yeah, that's something to actually keep in mind. Low vision can really cause you issues with your back from leaning over so much. So yeah, big textbooks, they're a no. Next are camera mounts and like zooming in camera devices of all sorts. You can get these and connect them to laptops. You can get them and connect them to normal monitors. I'm pretty sure there's also even devices that connect right with smartboards from like iPads and stuff like that, so that your iPad shows exactly what's on the smartboard. So there's a lot of options available, and I think they're getting better than when I was a kid, because when I was young I usually had like a whole other desk, and I had like this huge chunky machine thingy with a camera, and it took up a whole desk, and they're getting smaller, the stuff you use. So but they're still the same premise in that you have a camera, you point it at the board, you zoom in, you can see the board. As embarrassing as this stuff is, because it looks really weird and you have all this chunky equipment on your desk, I find it did help. Yes, it definitely did help. Don't think that you'll be able to see the board perfectly though, because you definitely won't. You still have to lean in really, really close to your screen to see what's on it. And so you still move a lot slower than a lot of the times the teacher will move when they're going over material and writing things down. The nice thing about that board is that you can zoom in on things if they're still too far away, but a lot of the times it's very hard to follow along in things like math. Another thing is that they're not, if you have like a camera mount, they're not perfect views, because of course you only have the camera from one perspective, and if there's like, say, some students in the way, or if there's, I don't know, some kind of thing in the classroom, some object in the way, or if it just doesn't catch the board at the right angle for part of the board, or if there's wires in front of the board because of a projector, you know, all this stuff can get in the way of your camera mount thingy. So it's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than just sitting there and trying to listen to what the teacher's saying, especially for math. In most of the other subjects, you can usually get by asking the teacher what they wrote on the board, or being given slideshow print-offs instead of having the PowerPoint like on the board and stuff like that, and copying from the things on your desk. But cameras in math are extremely important. They're really, really vital. You cannot follow math by listening. I swear it is impossible. I tried this for years and years, and the only way I kept my grades up in math was by going to the teacher after the classes and just asking him to pretty much do the lesson again on the whiteboard. Which is a really quick side note. Usually it's a really bad idea to ask the teacher to try to explain something on your paper at your desk, because we can't see them when they're writing, because we have to be an inch away from the paper to see what's happening, and their hand is an inch away from the paper, not your face. That's really weird. You can't get that close to their hand or the writing pencil. So if you need your teacher to explain something, he needs to explain it with the whiteboard, drawing or writing down the math with you standing up at the whiteboard with him with a dark marker. That's the best way to see what your teacher's doing if you're asking them to explain something. Really, really, really important, like pro tip, do that. But anyway, as I was saying, cameras are really, really, really important for math. They can also help with other subjects. They're not perfect. They do take up some desk space. I would suggest if you have a smart board, getting something that can auto-connect with the smart board. I know that there's devices like Apple programs that can do that, and they're still kind of in development, but technology is getting better every day, so I'd ask about those. I'd ask about the cameras, anything you can, really. One other thing about the cameras is that a lot of the time you'll have to plug them in to get them charging. I had to plug mine in every day after school. I'd have to go to the special education room, I'd have to plug in my cameras and stuff like that, monitors, and have them charge overnight. I think a lot of the time the monitors will plug into the wall, so you really have to make sure you're situated in the right place to have those plugged in and working. So that's just a side note about thinking where you need to sit in the class. A monocular, the next thing is a monocular. Now, personally, for me, monoculars don't work extremely well, especially in really light environments, because I wear sunglasses usually inside because it's so bright. Like, even in normal inside lighting, it's really, really bright, and my vision would go down without the sunglasses. This often really affects monoculars for me because the monocular is too far away from my eyes with the sunglasses on for it to be of any help. With the sunglasses off, my vision drops too much to really see a lot through the monocular. So I've never been a big fan of them. They give me a lot of eye strain, which is because I'm squinting so much to try to focus my vision through the powerful lenses. And the last thing you want is a really bad headache, which they do give me, but I mean, they're a better option than nothing. Another thing with the monocular is that you only see a really, really small field of vision with the monocular because, you know, it's like looking through a telescope. It's a teeny tiny circle, right? And it's very hard to find where your teacher is writing and to follow what they're doing with the monocular, and then to take the monocular off and look really, really close back at your paper to write things down, and then go up and try to find where the teacher's writing again with the monocular. It's a time-consuming process. It takes a really long time. The best thing that I could say you could do with the monocular is if you're supposed to read signs and stuff like that. It's easier to find a stationary sign that's not going to change and to read it, like a classroom number or something like that, than to actually read the board. Monoculars aren't ideal for boards. I'd suggest cameras for them, but if you have nothing else, then a monocular is again better than just sitting there and trying to listen to what the teacher's saying. Last, like, a piece of equipment that I'm going to describe would be magnifiers. Now, as I said originally with the textbooks, we can usually see things if we're really, really close up. The nice thing about magnifiers is they do make it easier to see them, and they make it a little less eye strainy for us, because you have to understand that whenever we're reading something, we're squinting our eyes really, really tightly so that we have as little light as possible to blur our vision or to skew our vision as little as possible. So that means that we're always constantly straining our eyes to see things properly or to the best of our abilities. That is super, super relevant when it comes to reading, and especially looking at text or things that are detailed like that. So reading gives us eye strain. The nice thing about magnifiers is that they take away the eye strain, at least a bit. I would not suggest for the Achromat to have lighted magnifiers. Anything with lights that we're really close to is going to hurt our vision more than help it. I know that normally you think light helps vision, but with us, we're the opposite. Light is evil, we do not like it. So I would go against any magnifier that's really bright or has a light shining on it to help read text. It doesn't help us. But again, magnifiers are nice because they do usually down the eye strain and make it a little easier to read. They're also really nice when things are really, really small, because we will actually have the ability to read those really small things that originally we wouldn't be able to read. I would say, like, anything under 12 size font, we really don't have a good ability to read it properly. Even if it's extremely close to our face, it's not going to really be read. And so that's another place where magnifiers come in. Now, my favorite magnifier, of course, is really small. It's a pocket magnifier. It's like pretty much a little thicker than the size of a credit card. You can put it in your wallet or your pocket or your backpack or your purse or wherever, and you can slip it out really fast and you could read with it. Now, that is so awesome because it's nice and small, it's compact, it's a 4 times magnification, which is what I find is the best for me. Anything bigger, it makes things so big on the screen that it's hard to read, which is ironic, and anything smaller doesn't make things big enough, so 4 times magnification is perfect for me. But everyone's gonna have, you know, the magnification they like, and I'd suggest trying out different magnifiers. But again, the nice thing about that magnifier, it fits really, really well in your pocket, and it's easy to carry around, and it's lightweight, and it just runs off of like a little watch battery or whatever you call those. So it lasts a really long time, and you're probably like, what, a battery? Why does it have a battery when you said it doesn't need to be digital? Well, good question. It has a light in it, and I know I just said I don't use lights. Well, I don't use the light on it, but it does have a light. So that doesn't really matter for me, but it does have one that you just turn on if you pull the magnifier out all the way, but you don't have to have the light to use it, so that doesn't really matter for me. Yeah, pretty much, especially in school, again, you don't want to like really look like you're standing out and using some weird, chunky, annoying devices. So a small pocket magnifier like that is super helpful. I also have used things like bubble magnifiers. Look, I just found some. Here's the small pocket magnifier. It is awesome. I know I've shown it in my videos before, but I love this thing. I love it. It's super small. Other magnifiers are things like bubble magnifiers, and if you're familiar with low vision at all, you've probably seen these around. Bubble magnifiers are nice, but you can't get, I mean, they're a bit more clunky and big to carry around, but they do work well. It all just depends. I suggest trying different things out, but again, the bigger and clunkier the thing is, the less the kid in question is probably going to want to use it. And the smaller things are, you know, the easier it is to kind of use it and not feel as self-conscious about using it. So now I'm just going to give you like some tips for school and stuff like that. First off, I'd suggest before your kid starts their grade or class, or if you're the kid, then before you start your class, going in and talking to your new teachers and just letting them know your vision and letting them know you're open to accommodations and that you'll ask and let them know if anything's difficult for you, and you two will work together to come up with accommodations. That'll make your teacher probably feel a lot less uncomfortable about, you know, or unsure about what they're supposed to do to help you out, because of course your teacher's going to be unsure. I wouldn't blame them. It might be a new experience altogether to have a student like you. And a lot of the times your teacher will be really helpful. They'll give you not large print, but they'll give you like bigger print pages if they're printing out super small stuff, or they won't give you colored paper backgrounds, which, by the way, for us, colored paper usually isn't good if it's dark. Like if you give us like red paper with black printing on it or orange paper with black printing, the printing looks like the paper. So don't do that, that's bad. But, you know, things like that the teacher needs to know. And the teacher will also need to know things like videos. You need to make sure to tell them you can't see videos. That's really important. Something I used to do in school is if the teacher was showing a video, I'd kind of sit through it in class and listen, but then I'd usually take it home and watch it with my family one night or something where I could get as close to the TV as I needed to see the video as well as I could. I would suggest that, of course, videos usually aren't as important as, like, you know, classwork. Usually videos are kind of fun, like a fun two class break or something. But sometimes they are important, and sometimes you will have projects on them, so take the video home and make sure you can see it the best you can. I would also make sure the teacher, when you tell them about your vision, make sure they know the do's and the don'ts. For example, my 3rd grade teacher, she was absolutely sure that if she pushed my desk all the way up to the very front of the classroom, like up to the wall where the board is, then I'd be able to see the board and write down what was on it. Well, I couldn't, and that was absolutely devastating to me. And I was a little too shy to tell my parents what were happening, even though, you know, I was like almost crying in class because of what this teacher was doing. And Teachers, when you're young, I guess sometimes teachers won't believe you, and it's up to your parents to describe or to make sure your teacher fully understands what you can and can't do. It's important to tell your teacher, here's a really good tip, tell them that even if they're at the front of the class, they can't see the board, so it's not necessary for them to sit at the very, very front. That's super important. Otherwise, teachers will think if they're at the front, they'll be able to see. You really have to make it known that no, their vision's too low to see at the very front of the board, okay? Really, really good tip there. Something else I'd suggest that is really helpful is audiobooks. Audiobooks, I mean, they're not completely necessary for us because yes, we can read print, but oh my gosh, they help so much with eye strain. And we are slow readers, obviously, because it takes us longer for our vision, to get what we're reading, and we're having to look really close, we're having to squint, and it just takes us longer to read. It's not like we're, unable to read. We can read, and we can read, great vocabulary, but it just takes us so long that you tend to fall behind in the class. Audiobooks are a huge, huge help. I would suggest getting audiobooks. Another thing, make sure the school, and especially the principal, knows that you can wear sunglasses inside. I used to have issues with this with people who didn't know me coming and saying I wasn't allowed to wear sunglasses, especially like I went to school both in Canada and America. In America, this is a huge deal. You're not allowed to wear sunglasses inside normally, and you really have to let them know that there is a reason. Sometimes the school will suggest you carry around a doctor's note so that you can prove that you need the sunglasses inside. I'd also suggest talking to the principal about that one because that is, I think, like a school district rule, and you need to make them know that the rule doesn't apply to you for visual reasons. Lastly, PE or gym. Ooh, that's just a sore subject right there. We can't do a lot of the stuff you do in gym. Like, sometimes we can participate and just do the best we can. Like, I used to play dodgeball, and I couldn't see the balls coming at me to save my life, and I couldn't dodge, but I still had fun just running around and picking up any balls that went on the floor that I could see and chucking them at the shapes on the other side of the room. I mean, you can do some stuff like that. Some other games, like kickball or baseball, it's really not possible for us to play them. We can't see the balls, we have no hand-eye coordination, no depth perception, and it is absolutely the most embarrassing thing in the world to play something like that and know that you can't play it properly, or your vision's going to make you look like a horrible player because you can't see what you're doing. It is absolutely horrifying, and I would not suggest it. So what I'd suggest in those situations in gym is to make sure your gym teachers know this, talk to them, and make sure you have another activity that you can do. I like to run. Of course, running was dangerous. I tended to run into signposts and trip over things and stuff like that, but I did really like to run, so I'd have a route that I could run around while they were playing, stuff like that. But if running wasn't your thing, you could ask them if you could do weights or lift free weights. A lot of the times gym classes will have stuff like that, or you can jump rope, or stuff like that. You and your teacher need to sit down and figure it out, because there will definitely be times in gym that you cannot do what the class is doing. I'd suggest, like, if it's possible for you to kind of do what the class is doing, like with me in dodgeball, even if you can't do it well, then I'd participate because that's more fun than doing something by yourself. I'd also suggest, and there is instances where you can adapt the games that you can play. Once we were playing something with nets. It wasn't really tennis, it was like volleyball almost, but with nets. I forgot what it's called. It's a weird Canadian thing. And instead of having the normal little teeny ball, we used a beach ball. And we just play with the beach ball. And I mean, again, my hand-eye coordination and depth perception is pretty much non-existent. But I could, every once in a while, I'd be able to get the beach ball, and everyone thought it was really fun when they had their turn to play with the group with the beach ball because it was something new and fun. And so you can always adapt games like that. And there's also like equipment like soccer balls with jingle bells in them, and kickballs with jingle bells in them. And those do make it a lot easier. Of course, it's not as easy as seeing the ball, but you have a little bit more of a way to play than not playing at all, right? So I'd suggest trying all that stuff. So my last piece of advice for school is, if you're a parent, listen to your kid. It's really, really, really important, because they know what works with their vision. And as much as it might sound like it sucks, you don't exactly. And that's okay, because you're still learning, and no one knows what we see exactly. Only we know what we see, right, as acromats. So it's really important that if we say something doesn't work, it probably doesn't work. There's no reason for us to lie about something not working if you're trying so hard to give us accommodations. There's nothing more frustrating than knowing that people are trying to help you and knowing that it's just not working. I mean, we feel terrible about it, but we're going to tell you if something doesn't work or if something's, you know, not easy for us to do. So it's really, really important to listen to your kids. I'd suggest, like, if you want to try out a piece of equipment or something like that, give it a chance, give it one day to try it, and then if the kid says it doesn't work, then don't use it again. It's that simple. If a kid, like, says they don't want to do something beforehand, like don't want to try equipment before it's even started, that's probably not a good idea, because it's probably good just to make sure, give it a trial period of at least a day just to make sure. Because sometimes, even for me, like sometimes I said I didn't want to try things and they did really help, and sometimes, I mean, your kids will say they don't want to do things just because they know they're going to make them stand out so much, but usually by the end of the day they'll be able to actually truthfully say yes, that actually did help and it wasn't that bad and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my advice, pretty much. Listen to your kids because they know what they're talking about. So yeah, there's that one. I'm sorry it was so long, but school is a really, really big subject. I don't know, I might even be talking more about it later, but that was really the big basics that I wanted to go over because they are super important, and school is definitely an interesting journey for us as acromats and for you as parents if you're a parent. And so I'm just happy I got to go over it and share my experiences, and if you have any questions, please ask. I'd be happy to answer them. I am just going into university now, and that's a whole other ballgame. I'll probably document that and explain the things that are different about, you know, grade school and high school and university. So yeah, be looking forward to that, and thank you guys so much for listening, and I guess I'll see you later. Thanks, bye!